Long before there were neighborhoods, ranches, or even California itself, this land was home to the Tongva people, the original inhabitants of the Los Angeles basin. One of their villages, known as Nakwanguna, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, was located in what is now present-day Downey. For thousands of years, the Tongva lived in harmony with the land, relying on nearby rivers, native plants, wildlife, and trade with neighboring villages. Their story is the very first chapter in the history of Downey. Like so many places throughout California, however, the future of this land would soon begin to change. In the late 1700s, Spain was expanding its settlements throughout Alta California. Governor Felipe de Neve helped establish new communities and strengthen Spain's presence across the region. A few years later, in 1784, Spanish Governor Pedro Fages granted retired Spanish Army Sergeant José Manuel Pérez Nieto one of the largest land grants in California. Known as Rancho Los Nietos, the grant originally covered nearly 300,000 acres, stretching from the Los Angeles River east towards the Santa Ana River. Although a later boundary dispute with Mission San Gabriel reduced the size of the rancho, it remained one of Southern California's largest and most important land grants. Over the next several decades, California itself would change. Mexico gained its independence from Spain, and with that came a new chapter in the history of Rancho Los Nietos. In 1821, Mexico gained its independence from Spain, and California became part of the new Mexican Republic. As the population continued to grow, these massive ranchos became increasingly difficult to manage. So in 1834, Rancho Los Nietos was divided into 5 smaller ranchos. One of those ranchos was called Rancho Santa Gertrudes, and this is the land that would eventually become much of present-day Downey. Rancho Santa Gertrudes was granted to Josefa Cota, the widow of Antonio Maria Nieto, and a member of one of California's earliest ranching families. In 1843, Rancho Santa Gertrudes was purchased by an American pioneer named Lemuel Carpenter. Carpenter had married Maria de Los Angeles Dominguez, who was Josefa Cota's niece, creating a connection between two families that would shape the history of this rancho. Together, they raised their family here while Carpenter continued operating the ranch and managing a successful soap manufacturing business in Los Angeles. Rancho Santa Gertrudes was still very much a working ranch. Events taking place hundreds of miles away were about to change California forever. In 1846, the Mexican-American War began. When the war ended 2 years later, the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo officially transferred California from Mexico to the United States. The treaty protected existing Mexican land grants, allowing families like the Carpenters to keep their property. However, there was one important condition. Landowners now had to prove their ownership before the United States government, a process that was often long, complicated, and expensive. For many California ranch owners, those legal costs created enormous financial pressure. Carpenter borrowed money in an effort to save Rancho Santa Gertrudes. Despite his efforts, the debts continued to grow. In 1859, the rancho was ordered to be sold at a sheriff's auction. Just days before the sale, Lemuel Carpenter tragically took his own life. His wife Maria de Los Angeles Dominguez Carpenter was left to raise their 5 children. The sheriff's sale moved forward, bringing another important figure into this story. His name was John Gately Downey, and under his ownership, this quiet rancho would begin a remarkable transformation.